Hi, my name is Frances Burnett, Dr. Burnett, and I'm going to be showing you how to create a master Costcard template using a workbook in Excel. Okay, this tutorial will give tips and techniques to be successful. The worksheet refers to the row. These are your rows, and to the columns on the matrix sheet in which you would work upon for this term spreadsheet. This entire sheet, all the way down and all the way across, is called a spreadsheet. And this is just a computer application. Okay, so let's get started on how to create a cost card. The first elements that you need to open up is you need to click on the restaurant name. Okay, type in the restaurant name. For our purposes, we're going to use JWN. And then when you hit enter, it'll go down to the cell below. So we're just going to hit enter twice and it'll go to classification. Okay, then over here, if you come down here to the bottom toolbar, you'll see that you can scroll over to the end of the cost card. It's going to be your name. So you're going to put your name in there. And for right now, we're going to just keep the standard portion and the standard yield blank. Okay, if you look at this cost card, it's very similar. It's exactly the same as the cost card you used in class today. And you'll notice that there are particular columns that are highlighted in yellow. These are going to serve as our templates. These are going to have formulas in them so that when we create a cost card, we won't need to do any kind of excess work. All we'll need to do is put in the recipe from the standardized recipe card. Okay, so to set up a workbook, there's a few things you need to remember. All formulas begin with the equal sign, and after you're done with your formula, you always hit enter. Okay, so we're going to start at the first column, D11, and in D11, you're going to first click on the equal sign, and you are going to then click on, or you can type in A11, and you're going to backslash, and then the edible yield. So literally what you just told the Excel program to do is take the recipe quantity, which is outlined in blue, and then take the recipe edible yield, which is outlined in red, and divide the two. So A11 divided by C11 is going to give you your as purchased quantity. This number should always be bigger than your edible portion, which is the recipe quantity. So remember that your as purchased quantity will always be larger than the recipe quantity. Okay, the next step is once you've put your formula in there, the next step is to come down to the right-hand bottom corner. And when you move your cursor over, there'll be a white cross, and the thick white cross is for highlighting. So if you press that down, it'll just highlight those cells. It won't copy those cells down. So what we want to do is copy and paste and drag all this formula all the way down to the very end of the yellow. So we're going to click on that black crosshair, and then drag it down the column until we get to D29. And then by letting go of the cursor, it's going to automatically paste that formula all the way down. To make sure you did it right, you can click on another cell anywhere, and then go pick any cell down here, and double click. When you double click, the two cells will be highlighted. The blue A19 matches the blue cell that is correct, and then the C19 matches the edible yield percent red cell, which is also correct. Okay, so you've done that correctly. Next, we want to put in our as purchased unit. Our as purchased unit is just the equal sign. And we can either type in B11 or just click on that cell B11. Once those little marching ants show up, that means that is part of the formula. And then just hit enter. And now what happened is this B11, when any number or any text goes into B11, it's going to carry over to this cell as well. So now we want to drag this cell all the way down like we did with D11. As you notice, the next area that you need to type in for formulas for this template is the recipe cost. As we talked about today, the recipe cost is just the invoice cost divided by the invoice unit, or how many there are in that actual price, how much you're getting for that actual price. So it's G11 divided by H11. Once you've put in that formula, you're going to copy and paste it all the way down. And last, we have the unit here. Like we said before, this unit is going to be the same as B11. So you can either type in B11, or once again you can click on B11 and hit enter, and then carry that cell all the way down. And the reason why we're using B11 for a recipe unit is because that's telling us right now the cost of one item, 1 ounce, 1 unit amount, which would be an ounce, cup, teaspoon, tablespoon, is a portion of the whole formula recipe unit. So almost at the end, what we're going to do here is put in our formula for individual ingredient cost. Now for the individual ingredient cost, you're going to take the as purchased quantity. Remember, now we have to purchase more if there's an edible yield. So therefore this number will be higher. So we're going to click on our D11, and we're going to multiply it by how much the recipe unit is. So how much is 1 teaspoon multiplied by the amount that we now need. So D11 times I11. Okay, so when we double click, we make sure that it's highlighting the correct cells, which it is, and hit enter. And now we're going to hover over until we get to that black crosshairs, and move them down to the end, which is K29. Okay, now we're going to put in the total ingredient cost formula. This one's pretty easy. I go up to the home toolbar, and you'll notice that on the right hand side of the toolbar you'll see what's called an auto sum. The auto sum is going to add up all of the amounts that you tell it to. So really what we're going to do is just highlight all of these cells in the total ingredient cost all the way down to total ingredient cost. And that's using the white cross. When you're using the white cross and you're copying all the way down, you're just highlighting those cells. And now we hit auto sum, and that gives us our total ingredient cost. So now when we click on another cell and click back and open up that formula, it's showing this entire area is highlighted. That's the sum from K11 all the way down to K29. So it's added up and given you the sum there. We hit enter and we go to the Q factor. The Q factor is the total ingredient cost multiplied by our Q factor percentage. So the Q factor percentage will range, like we said before, anywhere between 3 and 7%. Once you have the Q factor, the next step is to find your recipe cost. The recipe cost is the total ingredient cost plus your Q factor amount, which is a small amount. And that gives you a recipe cost. To get your individual portion cost, you're just going to take your recipe cost and divide it by the standard yield. The standardized cost card is for pricing your menu items. So any items that are on the plate that are additional to your recipe, your main item, would go in these areas right here. So your starch, your vegetables, salads, bread service, whatever you want to put in here. Okay, then you would go to your total plate cost, and your total plate cost is equals portion cost plus your additional cost plus any other additional cost, and then hit enter. Preliminary selling price is taking your total plate cost and dividing it by your desired cost percentage. Typically your desired cost percentage will be 30%. That's the national average. The actual cost percentage formula is taking your food cost, which is the same as the total plate cost, and you're going to divide that by your actual selling price, meaning what's on the menu for that selling price, and hit enter. And that number will give you the actual cost percentage as opposed to your desired cost percentage. Okay, that pretty much covers everything to create a template for your cost cards.